I want to speak against an amendment by my colleague, Senator Vitter, that will also be on the floor tomorrow. And again, I will not be here to vote no, but will submit a statement to the record. But I wanted to speak tonight about how strongly I oppose Amendment 2359, which will be voted on tomorrow. This is an amendment for two reasons. On the policy issue, number one, it's bad policy, and I'll talk about why in a minute. But the other reason I'm against it is because this amendment only deals with public housing residents in the city of New Orleans. Not public housing residents everywhere in the country, not public housing residents right here in the District of Columbia, not public residents in the city of Chicago or New York, but only in the city of New Orleans. Not in Baton Rouge, not in Lafayette, Louisiana. So that is perplexing to me that it would be focused in only one city in our state and only one city in the whole country. That's one reason to vote against the amendment, no matter what it said, basically, because it's not including other communities. But the real reason to vote against it is because it is mean-spirited and it is counterproductive. And what this amendment basically says is that you can be evicted from public housing if anyone in the family commits a crime or gets in trouble with the law. Now, I understand that family members, I'm one of 9 siblings, I'm married and now have 2 children, I have many, many brothers and sisters and 38 cousins in our extended family and 2 wonderful parents. The president knows this. She's met many members of my family, and I like to try to take responsibility for everyone in my family. But parents, no matter how hard you try, or aunts or uncles, no matter how hard you try, sometimes somebody in your family does something that's wrong. Should the entire family become homeless? That is what Senator Vitter's amendment will do. It is such poor policy. It's so mean-spirited. It's so counterproductive. It is an increase in homelessness for sure in a city that's already seen our homeless rates go up 4 times. But more than that, it's just the nature of this amendment is so punitive and out of the control of grandmothers or great aunts or moms in many cases, but sometimes moms and dads that are trying to do the best they can. But children sometimes do very bad things. And sometimes you'll have a family of 5 children, all 4 children are wonderful and straight-A students, and then you have one child that just gets in trouble with drugs or becomes an alcoholic, causes trouble for the family. So Senator Vitter wants to put in an amendment, and has put it in, is going to ask this body to vote on it, to when one member of the family gets in trouble with the law, the whole family gets thrown out on the street. Now, I would like, if this amendment passes, for him to have to go to the sister in 4th grade because let's say the teenage son that's 17 is the one that's causing the problems, and I don't want people to think I just pick on boys, but I think people understand that we have lots of trouble with this age group of all races. So I'd like maybe for my colleague to be the one that has to knock on the front door and tell the mother and the 4th grade little girl who just got an A on her test, just performed in the band, and has straight A's, that she can pack her bags and spend the night on the street. And if I could modify this amendment to make him have to do that, I would. This is not compassionate conservatism. This is mean, and it's nonsense. And it needs to be voted down. And just to repeat the number, so my colleagues, both Democrats and Republicans, might memorize it, it's 2359. only for New Orleans, and only for people in public housing. So I hope people vote no. And let me say one other thing about this. Unfortunately, my colleague and some people supported tearing down all of these public housing units after the storm because some of them were destroyed, some of them weren't, but some people took this as an opportunity to say we never liked them anyway, they weren't run very well, which is true, they weren't, so let's just knock them all down, and too bad for the people that used to live there. Even though most people that live there work, and I'd like to remind my colleague and others, they don't live there for free. Under the law, they pay 30% of their income. But he wanted to go knock them all down, and so some of us fought back and said, okay, we want to reform them, we want to build better communities, we'll work with you here. And so because I stepped in and a bunch of other folks stepped in, Catholic Charities and many, many activists from all different walks of life, including the business community, we came and said, okay, we're going to rebuild these communities, and the most amazing thing about it is it's working. Sean Donovan, our Secretary of HUD, was just down there. We had standing room only, people from every different race and walk of life. We're patting ourselves on the back saying, you know, it was bad 10 years ago, it was bad 5 years ago, but now we're all working together in the spirit of unity in a city that has been absolutely brought to its knees by flooding and by political bickering and bomb throwing. And we were all just down there, and then this amendment has to hit the floor of the Senate. It's a disgrace. So I'm urging my colleagues to vote no on 2365, and while I'm here, I just as soon say a word about the other amendment that passed, and unfortunately passed this afternoon by 73 votes. It was another Vitter amendment. It was 2376. I voted no. There are 26 of us that voted no, and I'll be finished in 1 minute. I see the senator from Texas. 73 people voted yes. So I know I'm in the minority, but that's what the Senate is about, giving the minorities a voice. So I want to say something about this. This amendment reinstated a law that says that if you live in public housing, you have to do 8 hours of community service. That sounds pretty good. People think, you know, we're providing housing for people. They should be grateful. The least they can do is do community service. I'm a big supporter of community service. I try to do it when I can. I support broad community service. What I don't support is making poor people, and mostly minorities, do community service, while other people sit on the sideline and never are required to do it, even if the largesse given by their government is much greater than a resident of public housing could get if they live there for 50 years. Okay, if you live there for 50 years, you could not possibly benefit as much from the general treasury as if you were the executive of AIG, who we just gave $1 gazillion to. Did we ask him to do 8 hours of community service? We didn't even ask him to pay the money back. Now somebody's got to wake up in this chamber, and I'm not fussing at my colleagues because I know people have a different view about this. But if we want to require law students to do 8 hours of community service for the loans that they get, fine. If we want to have AIG, but don't just pick on the poor because they can't fight back. And they don't have any lobbyists up here for them. And that's the 2 amendments that my colleague could come up with today. I can't wait to see what he comes up with tomorrow. I yield the floor.